Successful clubs sign the already established superstars, like when Manchester City signed Erling Haaland and won the treble in his first season. They also won the 23-24 league by the finest of margins, with their talismanic striker Haaland scoring 27 goals after a thrilling battle between him, Chelsea's Cole Palmer, and Newcastle's Alexander Isak for the Golden Boot. But the most successful clubs signed the young superstars too. And that is what Man City have just done. They have signed Brazilian wonder kid Savinho for £21 million, who's just finished a stellar season producing 19 goals in an underdog Girona side who stunned La Liga by going from a top 10 side to finishing third last season. However, Savinho is much more than an output player. He was instrumental in Girona's stellar 23-24 season and will be key to City's continued dominance in years to come. So, who is Manchester City's new superstar? You might be wondering why we call him Savinho when his name is Savio, but more on that later. Some fans will know Savinho as one of the players that made Girona tick, while others will have no idea who he is. The dynamic winger scored 9 goals and created 53 chances, 10 of which turned into goals for Girona, who punched way above their weight to compete with Real Madrid and Barcelona for La Liga. Savinho burned hot for Girona on the flanks, and his style of play made them a nightmare to defend against for opposing teams. He was crucial in their wins and drew the admiration of fans when Girona beat Barcelona 4-2 in December of 2023 at the Camp Nou. He tormented Barcelona players in that game with dribbles and incisive passes. A memorable pass was the one he made to Viktor Cygankov, which went through Jules Koundé and Frenkie de Jong. Unfortunately, Cygankov wouldn't bury the chance, but it was still exceptional. Savinho wasn't always the elite dribbler that he is now. He was born on his grandparents' cow farm near São Mateus, Espírito Santo, a large town not far from some of the major tourist attractions. Little did his parents and grandparents know that Savinho would be an attraction for millions of football fans later on in his life. Savinho was drawn to football early on, and he began to play with a local club around São Mateus. Savinho was completely under the radar, and none of the bigger clubs in Brazil were trying to get his signature. But then everything changed. When he was 11 years old, Savinho took part in a tournament which involved the bigger Brazilian teams in the Brazilian Serie A, including Atlético Mineiro and Cruzeiro. These clubs noticed him, and when his agent Juliano Rodrigues recommended him to the academy director at Mineiro, the club signed him. However, there was a problem. Mineiro was in Minas Gerais, which was 250 miles away from his hometown. It was an extremely difficult situation, but his family wasn't about to let him lose this opportunity. So his mother moved to Minas Gerais with him, a great judgment call as it turned out. Savinho was a different kind of player. He adapted immediately to his new environment and soon began to play for Mineiro's under-13s as an 11-year-old. His performances made him stand out for the club, and he soon earned a spot in the under-15 Brazilian national side, going to compete in the Copa America in 2019. Savinho lit up the competition and electrified fans with his maturity and incredible displays on the ball. He was key to the under-15 Brazilian side winning that edition of the under-15s Copa America as he scored 4 goals. With how he played at the Copa America under-15s, Savinho fast-tracked his own development. Atlético Mineiro had no other choice than to call him up to the first team in 2020 and offered him a 3-year contract, which he promptly signed. By September of that year, Savinho made his debut, but Atlético Mineiro were careful. They didn't want to rush him, and they used him sparingly until 2022, and in May of that year he scored his first goal in a 3-1 win for Mineiro against Ecuadorian side Independiente del Valle in the Copa Libertadores. That goal, and how incredible Savinho had been, brought him to the attention that he needed at that point in his career. City Football Group, who control a couple of clubs, including Manchester City, Troyes and Girona, who had deep scouting networks in Brazilian football, had been monitoring Savinho for a while. they weren't the only ones. Arsenal were also lurking. They had enjoyed some success in signing Gabriel Martinelli and wanted another winger who could also do damage. Unfortunately for Arsenal, they could hardly match City Football Group's offer of €6.5 million and an additional $6 million in bonuses, plus a 12.5% sell-on clause, which meant that Atletico Mineiro would make money from any future sale of the winger, so it was just too good an offer to turn down. So on June the 30th, Atletico Mineiro announced the youngster's departure to French club Troyes, one of the clubs under City Football Group. This was met with slight controversy as the City Football Group had bought Savinho for Troyes and then loaned him out to PSV and then Girona, also part of the City Football Group. It seems as though Man City maybe knew what they were doing, waiting for him to mature within their football group, and then they could easily make the transfer from within it when it was the right time. I mean, he never even played a game for Troyes. What are your thoughts on these types of transfers from within clubs owned by the same group? We'd love to hear your thoughts, let us know. Savinho was loaned to PSV from Troyes for the 2022-23 season. He went on to have his first taste of European football and there was an immediate spark. He had 2 assists in his first 3 appearances in the Dutch league. Savinho also played in the Europa League for PSV, but after his explosive start for them, he did dim and struggled to make first-team places. It didn't help that the highly rated Johan Bakayoko was one of the players he was competing with for game time. It also didn't help that he had an injury that robbed him of being able to prove his worth to the team. And so Savinho ended up only making 9 appearances in the Dutch league for the team, and with that poor spell with PSV, the question then hung in the air was what was next for the Brazilian talent. Savinho, though, was ready to brave the unknown. He was ready to show that the PSV loan didn't define him, and he eventually got the chance to do so. He was called up to the Brazilian under-20 team for the 2023 FIFA Under-20 World Cup. He then scored once in the tournament before Israel eliminated Brazil in the quarter-finals. Now, Brazil didn't win the tournament, but Savinho had done enough to be noticed. His performance in that tournament brought the attention of Girona, who had been studying the winger. They had lost their top scorer, Tati Castellanos, and believed Savinho could fill his boots. So Girona approached Troyes for a loan. Savinho was a revelation for Girona, and he put up incredible performances and excellent numbers for them, with 19 goal contributions in 35 games. The Girona fans loved him so much that they gave him the nickname he's now known as, and even has on the back of his shirt. So the player's full name is Savio Moreira de Oliveira. This was naturally shortened to Savio, which is what he had worn on the back of his shirt throughout his club career. However, Girona fans gave him the nickname Savinho, as it felt it would better align with some of the talented Brazilian players of old, such as Ronaldinho or Robinho, and this stuck so much so that when he was called up to the Brazil squad for the first time earlier this year, the National Association actually registered him as Savinho. He therefore wore Savinho on his back when he made his senior international debut in a 1-0 win over England in March. Afterwards, he decided not to correct the apparent administrative error and instead continued to be known as Savinho in 6 more outings for Brazil this summer. So I chose to go back to having Savinho on my shirt, and I hope the name brings me some good luck, the player said upon his signing for Manchester City. My goal was always to play for Man City. That has been my goal ever since I was originally signed by the football group, Savinho said. So why, out of all the talents that City could sign, why Savinho? Well, Savinho is an incredible footballer, and he has a similar profile that City have been missing since Leroy Sané or Riyad Mahrez left the club. A profile they also lost when Cole Palmer moved to Chelsea in the 23-24 transfer window. The Brazilian winger is a left-footed, elite, pacey one-on-one dribbler who has played as an inside forward and a traditional touchline hugging winger, kind of like Arjen Robben. Before his transfer to Girona, Savinho mostly played on the right flank, which allowed him to cut inside and place a pinpoint pass or strike with his left foot. When he got to Girona, the coach there, Michel Sanchez, believed letting the talented Brazilian play the left wing suited his ability to dribble better. And with that, Savinho learned the art of stretching play and has become extremely good at it. He dribbles, progresses with the ball, and crosses it into the box for the eagerly awaiting striker who will now be Erling Haaland. What a duo these two could be. The winger managed 29 crosses in the 23-24 campaign, and his style found an excellent partner in Ukrainian striker Artem Dovbyk. However, Savinho isn't only focused on crossing to the striker. He has a creative and playmaking side that's similar to that of a number 10. The Brazilian is so brilliant that he was one of the top players in La Liga for making passes that will most likely become assists. Savinho enjoyed creating opportunities for the team. As of February 2024, Savinho provided 8 opportunities to Dovbyk in the league. Now, apart from his ability to dribble and pass, Savinho is superb at making runs behind opposition players. In some matches, he used his ability to run in behind to create goal-scoring opportunities for teammates. Now, with how the player plays, City are definitely the best destination for him. His ability to cross and set up goals for a striker like Erling Haaland, who is ruthless in front of goal, is just tantalising. Already City have an idea of how the player may connect with Haaland through Savinho's previous relationship with Dovbyk. Now, it isn't only Haaland that will benefit from Savinho's attacking instincts. Kevin De Bruyne will too, if he's still at the club, that is, even more so than Haaland. Savinho will provide an outlet for Kevin De Bruyne, who's capable of producing the best long passes for the Brazilian forward. Now, apart from this, Savinho draws fouls from opponents, which would give De Bruyne the chance to get on more free kicks and produce more moments of magic for City. However, as good as Savinho will surely be for City, he has to become a more well-rounded player. The Brazilian currently has an emphasis on providing assists for the team, but there'll be more situations that will require him to take the shots for himself and maybe be a bit more selfish. So Savinho's team play is also his weakness, but with that dribbling ability, which has the option to open defences up, scoring more goals will surely only be a matter of time. The winger has begun his career in Europe on a good note with his loan spell at Girona, but can he hack it on the big stage?